Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what's arguably the ultimate underdog story in all of human history. But listen, we're not just going to look at this as some ancient myth or, a simple Sunday school morality tale. We're actually going to analyze this text as a literal masterclass in ancient tactical strategy and asymmetrical warfare. It is a completely fascinating look at what happens when conventional military might collides with totally unorthodox strategy.
I mean, it really is the ultimate question, isn't it? How do you defeat an unbeatable giant when the very rules of war are completely rigged against you? I really want you to keep this central dilemma in the back of your mind as we go through this explainer together. Seriously, what do you do when you're staring down an immovable object on the battlefield, and literally everything you've been taught about combat tells you that you have absolutely zero chance of winning?
Section 1. The Valley of Elah, a geopolitical stalemate.
So take a look at the sheer geographical deadlock we've got going on here. You have the Philistine army on one side, pitched between Shocho and Azekah, and on the flip side, King Saul and the men of Israel are gathered in the Valley of Elah. The source describes them standing on opposing mountains with a valley right smack in the middle. So basically, neither side wants to be the first to charge down into that valley, right? Because that would mean fighting an uphill battle against the other guys. It's this perfect, incredibly tense tactical stalemate, and it sets the exact right stage for an ancient practice known as champion warfare.
All right, Section 2. The Giant's Challenge, building the immovable object.
So out of the Philistine camp steps their undisputed champion, Goliath of Gath. The source text actually gives us his exact measurement, 6 cubits and a span. Now, depending on the ancient standard you're using, this puts Goliath somewhere between nearly 7 feet to well over 9 feet tall. Either way you slice it, his physical scale is absolutely terrifying. He is literally a giant stepping out onto the front lines, designed from the ground up to be a walking, breathing weapon of mass intimidation.
And man, it wasn't just his height. 5,000 shekels of brass. That is the sheer mathematical reality of his armor's weight, specifically his massive coat of mail. To put that into perspective for you, this equates to somewhere around 125 to 150 pounds of armor alone. I mean, he is effectively an ancient tank, just completely encased in heavy, impenetrable metal.
And beyond that crazy heavy coat of mail, he had brass greaves on his legs, a brass target between his shoulders, and a spear staff so massive it's actually compared to a weaver's beam. The iron head of that spear alone weighed 600 shekels, which is roughly 15 pounds of solid iron just at the tip. He was so heavily burdened with all this weaponry that the text notes he actually required a shield bearer just to walk out in front of him.
So this walking tank issues a massive, high-stakes, winner-takes-all proposition. He shouts out to the completely paralyzed Israelites, "Choose you a man for you and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me and to kill me, then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall ye be our servants." He is literally offering to settle this entire geopolitical conflict in one single one-on-one combat scenario.
But yeah, crickets. Nobody steps up. And this wasn't just a one-time challenge either. Goliath presents himself in the morning and then comes right back in the evening, and he does this routine for 40 agonizing days. It is a grinding, unrelenting campaign of psychological warfare. King Saul and the entire Israelite army are, as the text explicitly says, dismayed and greatly afraid. They are playing completely into Goliath's heavy intimidation tactics.
Section 3. The shepherd arrives, an unlikely volunteer.
Enter David. He's the youngest of 8 sons, and get this, he's not even a soldier. He's just on a super mundane errand for his dad, Jesse. He leaves his sheep with a keeper, grabs some parched corn, 10 loaves of bread, and 10 cheeses, and heads to the camp just to check on his older brothers. But this simple cheese delivery places him right at the front lines at the exact moment Goliath comes out to repeat his daily taunt. So David is standing right there, watching the Israelite soldiers flee in absolute terror.
Naturally, David starts asking some questions. He finds out about this massive bounty King Saul has placed on the giant's head. We're talking great riches, marriage to the king's daughter, and total tax exemption for his family. Now his eldest brother, Eliab, gets furious at David for being nosy and arrogant. But David just brushes him off with a simple yet incredibly profound question. Is there not a cause? Where an entire army sees certain death, David is actually seeing a huge opportunity.
So word of this gets to King Saul, who immediately summons David. Saul tells him, "Look, it's impossible. You're just a youth, and Goliath is a literal veteran man of war." Now this is the crucial point, how David responds. He presents an incredibly unorthodox combat resume to the king. He says that when a lion and a bear came after his sheep, he didn't run away. No, he caught them by the beard, smote them, and slew them. He's arguing that his experience in the wild, taking down lethal predators to protect his flock, has actually prepared him perfectly for this exact moment.
Which brings us to Section 4, Unorthodox Tactics, Rejecting the Rules of Engagement. So Saul tries to prepare David to fight Goliath on Goliath's terms, right? Heavy infantry versus heavy infantry. He actually tries to dress David up in his own gear, a brass helmet, a heavy coat of mail, and a sword. But David's response is so telling. He says, "I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them." David puts the armor on, realizes it totally restricts his natural agility, and smartly ticks the whole shebang off. He absolutely refuses to wear someone else's armor. Because of that, we are looking at two completely different paradigms of warfare about to clash here. On one side, you have Goliath's loadout, massive, heavy, impenetrable, and honestly pretty slow. On the flip side, David's loadout, a staff, a simple shepherd's bag, a sling, and 5 smooth stones he picked up from a brook. David isn't bringing a knife to a gunfight, you guys. He is bringing a sniper rifle to a knife fight. He's choosing a projectile weapon that completely maximizes his speed, distance, and lethal accuracy.
Section 5. Sling versus Sword. The Clash of Paradigms.
So Goliath, with his shield bearer walking out in front of him, finally gets a good look at his opponent, and wow, he is deeply offended. He looks at this unarmed, ruddy youth holding a literal shepherd's staff, and he delivers some classic ancient trash talk. He curses David and yells, "Am I a dog, that thou comest to me with staves? I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field." Goliath is expecting a traditional sword fight, and he feels legitimately insulted.
But David? He doesn't even flinch. He issues his own ideological retort. He calls out Goliath's reliance on heavy weaponry, shouting back, "Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts." Basically, David is asserting that traditional heavy weapons are absolutely not going to decide the outcome today. He takes Goliath's total reliance on physical superiority and turns it completely on its head.
And then the action happens in an absolute flash. As Goliath moves forward, David doesn't wait. He actually hastes and runs directly toward the enemy line. In one fluid, heavily practiced motion, he reaches into his bag, pulls out a stone, and slings it, finding the one single vulnerable spot on the giant, his exposed forehead. The stone sinks right in, and the unbeatable giant immediately falls upon his face to the earth. The immovable object is dropped in a matter of seconds.
But actually, the battle wasn't completely over just yet. The text makes a point to specifically note that there was no sword in the hand of David. So what does he do? He runs up, stands over the fallen Philistine, draws Goliath's own massive sword from its sheath, and secures the final victory. Seeing their unbeatable champion dead, the completely stunned Philistine army breaks rank and flees all the way back to the gates of Ekron, leaving their camp to be spoiled by the Israelites.
Section 6. The Underdog Archetype. Why this matters today.
So, what does this all mean for us? Here are the real key tactical takeaways. First off, immovable objects, like Goliath, they rely almost entirely on fear and heavy intimidation to freeze their opponents. But secondly, unorthodox forces win by leveraging speed, distance, and totally changing the rules of engagement. Like we saw, David didn't fight Goliath at close range. He fundamentally changed the game. And finally, achieving victory often requires actively rejecting someone else's armor. If David had fought exactly like Saul wanted him to, there's no way he would have survived, for sure.
Which leaves us with this final thought. When you are facing your own Goliath, whatever immovable object or insurmountable challenge happens to be in your way, are you trying to fight on the giant's terms? Are you weighing yourself down in heavy armor that just doesn't fit you? Or are you finding a way to change the rules of the game and use your own unique tools? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helps you look at your next big challenge just a little bit differently.